Hi everyone, I'm Lady Teddy. I'm going to be reading out loud to you guys from Magium, which is a text-based choose-your-own-adventure story app. It is free on both Android and iOS, and it's a really good story, so I highly recommend you guys download it and play it for yourself, because there's a lot of different paths that you could take. Right now I am doing a good, smart playthrough. Sorry, lost my train of thought. I'm getting tired. Right now we're on book 2, chapter 4. We're gonna be starting chapter 4. And I know a lot of people just like listening and falling asleep, so that's totally fine. There's no pressure to participate. There are choices that can affect the outcome of the game. Since we're doing good or smart, if it's a good or smart option, I will generally make the decision for everyone. If it's just a general conversation or direction, I will generally allow I will give you guys the option of helping me decide which direction to take, so I'll give you all about a minute, and if no one says anything, I will pick the path. If someone does say something, then that's the path that we'll go with. So, yeah. I have turned off all sound alerts, so I don't recommend anyone redeem anything. I don't want anything to be disruptive. And yeah, without further ado, we will do that. Right now, I keep meaning to make like a character chart to put in my about me section so that people can figure out, like, I don't need to. If anyone has any questions, you're more than welcome to ask. I keep meaning to make a character chart in my bio so that people can catch up without needing to ask. Right now, the main party, they've been basically imprisoned for killing a noble, and they need to participate in a life or death arena. So, yeah. They're returning to their cells. The arena is in like 1 or 2 days. Alright. The trapdoor above us opens, allowing the platform to slowly lift us through the thick layer of rock making up the cave ceiling. Once we get close to the height level of our division cells, a second trapdoor opens up, and the platform slows down to a halt as we finally reach our destination. Almost immediately after it stops, the elevator changes its course and it starts to descend back towards the lower levels. We jump off the platform and onto the cell's door, while the trapdoor closes itself back up, blocking the elevator from our view. As I take a look around, I realize that the room we've arrived in is not in fact Layla's room, but my own. I guess it's a good thing that I chose cell number 3 when I was asked about it by the desk worker. If I'd chosen cell number 5 instead, this room would likely have been taken to the mage who got locked here yesterday. As we stand in the middle of my room, a small puddle is beginning to form below our feet, due to the water that is dripping from our clothes. We should get changed, I say as I take my room's key out of my pocket and go to open the door. I also want to take a look through my notebook to see if I can find any useful information on the creatures we've seen in caverns. I'll see you in a few hours to tell you what I found. Layla nods. See you later, Layla writes as she exits my room, heading towards her own. The first thing I do after she leaves is search my backpack for a dry shirt and a new pair of pants. Once I get changed and leave my wet clothes to dry, I pick up my notebook and I get back to studying. About 1 hour after I started reading, I got a call on my transceiver from Flower. "Barry, are you okay?" Flower asks me out of the blue with a bit of panic in her voice. I could immediately tell that it was her and not Aluna speaking from the tone of her voice. "Yeah, I'm alive," I say. "We managed to get back to our cells about an hour ago." "Thank the gods," Flower says. "When I heard about what happened, I got really worried, especially when I found out you got left alone with that jerk Furon. Petal's been worried sick, too." "Oh?" I ask her, surprised. "Did she say that?" "Well, technically," Flower says, "what she said was that if you couldn't handle yourself in a situation like that after joining this tournament, then you deserved your fate. But I'm sure that's not really what she meant." "Oh yeah? Well, tell her that her blue eyes make her look fat. It's okay, I know she means well. What about Araka? Was she not worried about me?" So, this is not good. So it would be either this one or this one. I'm inclined to go with this one. So if no one says anything in about a minute, this is the decision that I'm going to take. Otherwise, yeah. Yeah, y'all have about a minute. You trust my judgment? Well, thank you. This is a pretty low-risk one. I forgot that I like to prop up the mic. Okay. What about Araka? Was she not worried about me? Was she not worried about me? "Of course I was worried," Araka says. I'm worried about you all the time. I keep praying every day that someone will finally find a cure for your morbid stupidity, but I've had no luck so far. Don't be discouraged, though. I'm sure someone will eventually put you out of your misery." "Thank you for those kind words," I tell her. "Hey, no problem," Araka says. "Also, would you mind telling me how the hell you managed to convince the troll to let you go? I thought for sure you were done for when I sensed him come near you." "You mean Velgos?" I ask her, "the troll that wouldn't die even if you cut his head off? He got stopped by the arena's owner. Apparently he wants to make a show out of our fight, and will be fighting the troll in the second round of the arena instead." "Ha," Araka says. "I'll be looking forward to it." "Be careful, Barry," Flower says. "We won't be able to help you while you're in the arena." "Yeah, I know," I say. "Don't worry. I'll be fine. But thanks for your concern." After I got done talking to Flower and Aluna, I spent another hour studying my notebook, and then I started calling my friends from the other divisions one by one in order to tell them of my findings. When I got to Kate, I also decided to tell her about her old inmate from the beacon, to see how she'd react. "Hey, Kate," I say, "do you remember having met a young Lasathi girl with silver hair who couldn't talk back when you were in the Beacon of Hope? Or maybe she had black hair back then. I'm not sure." There's a brief pause after I finish my phrase, during which I can't even hear the sound of Kate's breathing. "How do you know about Layla?" Kate asks me after a few seconds. "So you do remember her," I say. "Were the two of you on good terms, or—" "Tell me how you know about her," Kate shouts. Okay, I say. "I met her the other day. She's a member of my division. She's still alive." There's a brief pause during which Kate doesn't say anything. You are certain of this?" Kate says. "How do you know it's really her? She might be trying to trick you. Anyone can dye their hair white and pretend that they're not able to speak. The Layla I know should have been dead a long time ago." "Why?" I say. "Did you find her body?" "No," Kate says. "I did not." "Well then," I say, "I guess it wouldn't hurt you to meet her, would it? You'll be able to tell for yourself if it's really her when you see her up close." "All right, Barry," Kate says. "I'll agree to meet her. But be careful around her. You don't know for sure that it's really her. There are a lot of Lasathi in the institution who knew about us. The information could have gotten out in any number of ways." "Fine, I'll be careful," I say. "I'll see you in the arena tomorrow. Don't be late." "See you tomorrow," Kate says simply, and then we both close the transmission. Once I make sure that every one of my friends knows about the monsters from the arena and their weaknesses, I decide that it's time to get back to Layla in order to finally formulate a plan for how to deal with tomorrow's events. When I reach her room, I knock 3 times and she opens her door, dressed in the same clothes that she was wearing when we got back from the caverns. Her clothes are not as wet as they were when we returned, but they were definitely nowhere near dry yet. "You didn't get changed?" I ask her, shocked. "I don't have any change of clothes," Layla writes. "I wasn't carrying a backpack with me when I got captured." "Well, why didn't you say something?" I say. "You could have asked me for some spare clothes until yours dried up." "I didn't want to be a bother," Layla writes. "Wait a minute," I say. "If you don't have a backpack with you, then what about food? Don't tell me that you haven't eaten anything since you came here." "The guards have provided me with a minimum supply of food and water," Layla writes. "Just enough to get by. It's not a problem." "Of course it's a problem," I say. "Wait here, I'm going to bring you a change of clothes and some food." Oh, now I'm hungry. "No, you don't have to," Layla starts to write, but I ignore her and I go back to my room in search for some clothes and some beef jerky for my backpack. When I come back to Layla, I hand her a long-sleeve shirt, a pair of pants, the jerky, and a bottle of water. "Here you go," I tell Layla. "Now hurry up and get changed, will you? You wouldn't want to catch a cold right before the arena." "Thank you," Layla writes as she takes what I've given her and then closes the door in order to get changed. She opens the door a bit later, dressed in my clothes, with the long sleeves of the shirt hanging past her hands and the pants trailing on the ground behind her. "These clothes are a little big for me," Layla writes. "You look fine," I tell her. "It's not like you'll be fighting in these clothes at the arena event. It's just until your own clothes dry off. Come on, let's go inside. I want to tell you what I found out while reading my notebook." We both enter her room, and I spend the next 15 minutes telling her the most important parts about my findings. She listens closely to what I have to say while taking a bite from the beef jerky I gave her, every so often. After I'm done talking, she puts the jerky on the bed beside her, and she starts to write. From what you're telling me, Layla writes, I understand that our biggest problem by far will be the troll and his higher than average regeneration. Yeah, I tell her. It is already known that a troll can regenerate fast enough to not die from a wound to the heart, but a troll being able to survive with its head cut off is something that I didn't think was possible. I guess it goes to show how little we really know about regeneration in general. According to all the books I've read, any living being that's had its head severed from its body should not be able to live any longer, regardless of how high its regeneration is. The fact that the body could even regenerate its head contradicts our most basic knowledge about how a troll's body is supposed to work. But the troll didn't regenerate its head, Layla writes. The head kept talking from the ground, and the body had to pick it back up. You're right, I say. This means that the link between the body and the head is somehow not broken, even after the two of them get separated. Maybe we can use this. If the troll is still using its head to see and hear even after it's been severed from the body, then maybe we can cut his head off, pick it up, and then blindfold it or something, leaving his body defenseless. I don't think that the troll would leave himself open like that again in the arena, Layla writes. I used the element of surprise before, but now he knows how fast I am, and he won't let me cut his head off again so easily. Well, the only way you can kill a regular troll, I say, is either by cutting his head off or by burning it alive. If cutting the head off is not an option, then the only alternative we have left is fire. That being said, getting access to any sort of flames will be next to impossible in the arena, and that troll is even wearing anti-magic armor, which gives him protection to fire. Even if we somehow manage to find a way to burn him, we'd first have to damage his armor badly enough that the magical protections on it would wear off. Do you think we should talk about this with the other members of our division? Layla writes. Maybe they could come up with some ideas. Frog Lord, welcome back. Weren't you going to sleep? Right now I'm reading out loud from a text-based adventure called Magium. I suppose it couldn't hurt to hear their opinions on the matter. No, let them find their own information. We almost died to get ours. So it is good and smart to get opinions from the others, so I'm going to make the decision for this. Nuts, hello, welcome in. My day was good, how was yours? I suppose it couldn't hurt to hear their opinions on the matter. Layla nods. All right then, I say, let's go knock on their doors and we'll have a meet-up in the recreation room. I turn to leave the room, but Layla grabs me by the sleeve and she stops me in my tracks. As I turn back towards her, I see the blue writing in front of her simply says, "Wait." The blue writing then quickly disappears, being replaced by a new text. Can we do this later? Layla writes. Later? I ask her, confused. After my clothes have dried, Layla writes, with a pleading look in her eyes as she shows me the long sleeves hanging from her wrists. Oh, right, I say. Sorry, I forgot. I pause for a few seconds. On second thought, I say, maybe we should have this discussion tomorrow during our final recreation period. The arena events won't start until the day after tomorrow, so we'll have plenty of time to make a strategy. I don't really feel like knocking on everyone's doors as if I were trying to distribute a bunch of pamphlets. Plus, some of them might not agree to a meeting even if I call them. I think they'll be more inclined to hear me out tomorrow when we're all in the same room. Layla nods again. Nuts, I'm not playing Minesweeper tonight. I am reading out loud from Magium. I believe you've been here before, but it's a text-based adventure. That's really good, and I recommend everyone try and read it yourself because there's a lot of different paths that you can do. Frog Lord, well, screw sleep. Also, my eyes are burning. Oh my gosh, why are your eyes burning? Is it because you're tired? 80, thank you. Have you tried Benadryl or some sort of antihistamine that might help? Allergy meds? Thank you. I like it because it holds a lot of water. Yeah, Advil might work. A lot of people, Frog Lord, a lot of people say that they like listening to my voice during my streams because it helps them fall asleep, and that's why I started doing this read aloud thing. So, maybe this can help you fall asleep. I don't know. I'm sorry that you're going through this. That sounds very uncomfortable. Well, I'm glad that it has that effect, that it helps people. Okay. Layla nods again. I think I'm going to return to my room and try to dig up some more information. I say, I'll search for every note that I've written regarding regeneration, and I'll try to see if I can make some sense of this situation. Maybe if we properly understand the troll's ability, we can find a way to counter it. Let me know if you come up with any ideas in the meantime. I will, Layla writes. Well then, I guess I'm off. I'll see you again later. I will, Layla writes. Oh wait. See you later, Layla writes, and then I leave her room and go back to my own. As I close the door to my room behind me, I pick up my notebook once again, and my thoughts race towards the Lisathi who offered me the deal with the king. I still haven't told any of my friends about it. Should I tell them about it? No, I shouldn't make them worry needlessly. If I am going to tell them of this, then it will be after the arena when everyone will be safe. As I am lost in thought while mechanically turning the pages of my notebook one by one, my eyes chance on a paragraph that I seem to have skipped the last few times I was skimming through these texts. The paragraph mentions a theory that is not very popular among scholars, which states that the high regeneration of some creatures may be a result of an innate difference between their auras and ours. I suddenly remember Eden's lecture before we entered the city, when he was telling me that if you mess around with the person's aura, if you mess around enough with a person's aura, you can even stop them from aging. If what he told me is true, then it wouldn't be that far of a stretch to assume that a special type of aura could grant someone a high regeneration rate. If that is the case, then could this aura perhaps also help in keeping the limbs functional even if they are severed from the body? I'll admit that my knowledge about auras is limited, but from the little I know, a person's aura is not supposed to have an unlimited range. What were to happen, then, if the troll's head would be taken too far away from the body after it's been cut off? Would his consciousness fade away? Would that make him die for good? If we manage to cut the troll's head off again, this is definitely something that's worth testing out. I ended up spending the day trying to look for more information to confirm my theory. Unfortunately, not a lot of research has been done on this subject, since most people can barely even read the level of magic power in someone's aura, so the theory that an aura could influence a body's regeneration has has been deemed as not grounded in facts by most respectable groups of scholars, and the few who wanted to pursue this theory did not receive the appropriate funding to do so. I spend my whole day researching this, and all I have to show for it is an outlandish theory based on another outlandish theory whose validity hinges mostly on one of Eden's offhanded remarks. Better than nothing, I guess. I put my notebook back in my backpack, and I prepare to go to sleep. I'll have more time to study tomorrow. And you've had a cold washcloth over your eyes for a while. I'm trying to think. I don't know if there's anything else that could help with that. Benadryl, I believe, is an antihistamine, and it should knock you out, so maybe that would help. But we want Minesweeper. Froglord, you don't? Well, that's good, because I don't want to play Minesweeper. I want to read... I want to read Magium. It relaxes me, too. And no, I have not looked at Jedi Fallen Order. I have a long list of games that I'm going to get to, and I think I'll start with the ones that have franchises that I know a little bit more about. Or the ones that I've already paid for. I've paid for so many games that I have not played, and then I buy different games. Before falling asleep, Layla came to knock on my door in order to bring me back my clothes. Excuse me. I asked her if she came up with any ideas, but she said that the only thing that came to her mind was that we could try to crush the troll's head after we beheaded him, in the hopes that the head would no longer regenerate after it's been cut off from the body. Thank you. The next day, our recreation period was scheduled towards noon. As I stepped out of my cell to meet the others, I noticed, to my surprise, that everyone was gathered in the middle of the room, sitting on the floor, with the exception of Wilhelm, who was standing up shuffling a deck of cards. "You're late," Wilhelm says. "Have a seat. We were almost about to start without you." "What's going on here?" I ask Wilhelm. You were wondering," says Wilhelm, "why we are all suddenly on friendly terms after we've been mostly ignoring each other for the past few days. Well, the answer is simple. It's because the owner of the arena just paid us a visit." "The owner?" I ask him, surprised. "Yes," Wilhelm says. "He was told by the guards in this place that we haven't really been using these recreation periods to get to know each other. He therefore decided to come down here personally in order to graciously inform us that if we aren't planning to act as a team, he will be sending us out one by one to our deaths, instead of giving us a chance to work together. He also let us know that today's recreation period is the last time that we can prove that we are able to cooperate with each other." Shah, this book thingy on? What do you mean, Nets? "So, that's why you're all playing cards then," I say. "Well, we had to start somewhere," Wilhelm says, "and I just happened to have a deck of cards with me, so I said, why not?" "Fair enough," I say. "So what exactly are we playing?" This book thingy is an app, so it's a mobile game. You can download it on Android or iOS. And again, I highly recommend it. There's a lot of different paths that you can take. And it's a really good story, and I have a lot of respect for the author. "Fair enough," I say. "So what exactly are we playing?" "We're playing a game of shut your mouth and pick up the damn cards," one of the two thugs tells me in a menacing tone. If the game is shut your mouth, then why are your lips moving? That didn't answer my question. I've never heard of this game before. Could you please teach me the rules? I feel like good or smart. doesn't really apply here, so if anyone would like to help me pick a path here, now is your chance. I'll give you all about a minute. Otherwise, I'll probably go with the most sarcastic of these three. Also, if anyone wants to know what else has been going on in the story, all of my previous read-throughs are on YouTube in a Magium playlist, if you guys don't want to play it for yourself. What was she said? What did I say? And the reason I said smart or good is because I'm doing a smart good playthrough. Finally stopped wheezing. Yay, I'm glad you can breathe. That's exciting. Okay, so the first one. What not play do you mean? What do you mean, nuts? If the game is shut your mouth, then why are your lips moving? What did you just say to me, you piece of sh? The thug starts to say while he gets up, but he gets interrupted by Wilhelm. Now, the Wilhelm says as he puts a hand on the thug's shoulder in order to stop him from reaching me. We're all supposed to act as a team here, remember? Get your filthy hand off me, you low-born scum, the thug tells Wilhelm. I'm not sure if anyone else noticed, but for a second there, I'm pretty sure that I could see Wilhelm's cheerful expression turn into one of pure bloodlust as he heard the thug's words. I didn't get to see any more of his reaction because Bruce has suddenly begun laughing out loud, causing us all to turn our eyes to him instead. Did you just call him a low-born scum? Bruce says. And what are you supposed to be, the long-lost Prince of Ulmnar? No, says the mage that got locked up here yesterday. That makes him a disinherited noble. Take a look at that filthy rag he's wearing as a scarf. It bears the mark of the Tilleris family. The Tilleris family? Bruce says. Ha! So I guess that makes him a highborn scum then. My apologies. He laughs again. Can we please get back to our game of cards? Wilhelm says. The guards are still listening. Nobody cares about your game of cards, Wilbert. Bruce says. The owner said that we have to talk, so we're talking. He didn't say anything about playing cards. Go and do it by yourself if you like playing cards so much. My name is Wilhelm, not Wilbert, Wilhelm says in a calm but menacing tone. As Wilhelm stops talking, a blue writing appears in the middle of us with large characters so that we can all see it clearly. Please excuse me, the text says, but I would like to begin discussing our strategy for tomorrow, if you all don't mind. We all turn towards Layla, who is staring at us with an upset look on her face. Oh, Bruce says. Of course. Maybe we should start doing that. I could not agree more, Wilhelm says. And just what are we supposed to talk about exactly? The mage says. We still haven't been given any information into regard about tomorrow's events. The only thing we know so far is that we're likely going to be battling mythical creatures of some kind in one of the rounds. Layla gives me a look. I think she's trying to tell me that this would be the best moment for me to let everyone know about what we found out in the caverns. Then again, I suppose it's not too late for me to change my mind either. Alright, so good is this one. Well, ask Wilhelm if you overheard the guards say anything about the arena event. Tell everyone that we found out. Tell everyone what we found out in the caverns. Good is going to share. Actually, there is some information that I would like to share with you, I say, but you'd better brace yourselves because this is going to get long. I then start telling everyone about our trip to the underground caverns and what we discovered there. I omitted to tell him how exactly we reached the tunnels, but I did not tell him about our encounter with Flower and but I did not tell them about Flower and Luna either. But I tried to describe the rest of our adventure to them in as much detail as possible, while simultaneously avoiding telling them any information that might lead them to know that we are Lysathi and that we are using stat devices. After I got done with the story, I also gave them a quick summary of what I know about each of the creatures we've met, including their behaviors and their weaknesses, and I also told them my theory about the troll's unusual regeneration ability. I'm glad you agree, Froglord. This is all very useful information, Wilhelm says. I happened to overhear the guards last night saying that we'd be fighting a troll named Velgos in the second round, but I would have never imagined him to be so powerful. What I would like to add is that I've also heard them talk about manticores, which I don't believe you've met in the underground caverns. If your notebook has as much information in it as you've claimed, maybe you should do some research about them as well. I actually already did some research about them, I say. I forgot to mention it before, but I also managed to overhear the guards talking about some of the monsters we might have to fight in the arena. In that discussion, they mentioned manticores and giant scorpions. I'll give you the briefing on them later. So, about the trapdoor which you triggered accidentally, Bruce says, did you try to see if you could activate it again? I've tried a few times after that, Layla writes, but I didn't get it to work. Any chance we could have a look inside your room? Bruce says. Maybe one of us can figure it out. No, Layla writes. I'm not letting either of you inside my room. Except for the still water? The mage says. Except for the still water, Layla writes simply. So our greatest problem remains the troll then, Wilhelm says. I don't know what to say about the aura theory. I'm not really one to talk because I've never studied magic, but it seems a little far-fetched to me. I like Layla's idea about crushing the head better, Bruce says. I doubt he'll be able to regenerate it once it's been cut off. Mr. Kennedy, good morning. Hell yeah, 54K. I guess I better start thinking about a performance, huh? If you're looking for a show, maybe I could bring out my flow wand as well, since you're ordering all of my circus acts. Either way, Wilhelm says, what I think we all can agree on is there's no way we could face these enemies alone. I know that we can't really stand each other, but we're going to have to call a truce until we're going to have to call a truce until at least after the arena events. Our survival depends on it. For once, everyone agreed with Wilhelm, even if some did so more begrudgingly than others, and we decided to spend the rest of the recreation period discussing various strategies that could work against the monsters that we knew about, but also against other monsters that I've read about in my notes. We've even agreed to have a second meeting later, after we've after we'd spent some time alone in our rooms mulling over the information that we had at our disposal. No, Mr. Kennedy, I'm so out of practice with the flow wand, there's no way I'd charge someone for it. Even points. By the end of the day, we didn't manage to come up with better plans against the troll than our original ones, so all we could do was hope that at least one of them would work out all right. Once I get back to my room, late in the evening, I lay down on my bed and I fall asleep like a rock. The next day, I get woken up in the morning by one of the guards telling me to pack my bags because we're leaving in 20 minutes. I put all of my stuff back in my backpack and then I walk out the door and into the recreation room where the other members of my division were slowly starting to gather up. As soon as we're all set to go, we begin to leave our division's area one by one, and we stop outside the door where we are greeted by an employee of the arena who collects all of our keys and tells us to follow him. As we start to walk through the dimly lit tunnels, members from other divisions are slowly beginning to walk out of their division areas as well, and follow their guides through the corridors. When we finally reach the upper levels, we are told to line up in an orderly fashion so that the guards who were sent to escort us to the arena so that the guards who were sent to escort us to the arena will have an easier time keeping an eye on us. I didn't get to see any of my friends as we advanced towards the arena, but I did see a pretty big crowd of people making its way to the arena to see the show, and a very long line at the ticket booth. The guards lead us through the gladiators' entrance of the arena, and they show us to our locker rooms, where we get to store our belongings for the duration of the show. After we're done putting our backpacks in the lockers, the guard tells us that we're allowed to roam freely through the arena. Tells us that we're allowed to roam freely through the arena designated for the gladiators until the arena events begin, but that we will need to gather up. After we're done putting our backpacks in the lockers, the guards tell us that we're allowed to roam freely through the arena designated for the gladiators until the events begin, but that we will need to gather up in the arena waiting area of our division after the sound of the first horn. I figured that this would be the best moment to arrange a meeting between Layla and Kate, so I told Layla I wanted her to meet some of my friends before the event and asked her to follow me. She seemed a bit suspicious of my motives at first, but in the end she decided to come with me. The arena that we were given access to was the area right below the spectators' seats, circling the area where the fighting is about to take place. The fighting area reserved for the gladiators looks much larger than those from the arenas that I've read about before in history books. The amphitheater surrounding the arena seems big enough to host 30,000 spectators, if not more, and yet it does not seem that these seats are in any danger of not being filled. Even at this early hour in the morning, there are thousands of spectators pouring in through the entrances and then making their way through the rising tiers of seats, eager to reach their reserved spots and to watch the event of the century. It seems that 3 days were more than enough to spread the word throughout the city about today's event. We make our way through the lower levels of the Colosseum while I look around, scanning the groups of gladiators to see if I can spot anyone that I know. Half an hour later, we are still nowhere close to finding any trace of them. I tried reaching them through Darren's transceiver as well, but I've had no luck. There must be too many people trying to use transceivers in the area to be able to lock onto the correct signals. Where could they all be? The horn that announces the start of the events could be sounding any minute now. Layla? I hear Kate's voice behind me. Layla, is that really you? Layla turns around at the sound of Kate's voice, but when she sees her face, she appears frozen by shock. Kate? Layla writes, but she doesn't have time to write anything else because Kate comes rushing towards her, and then she hugs her as tightly as she can. Layla, Kate says, by the gods, I thought you were dead. They told us you died from the experiments. Oh, gods, Layla, I am so sorry. I shouldn't have believed them. I should have gone looking for you like I did all the others. You don't need to apologize, Layla writes, but she stops her text when she realizes that Kate is currently keeping her eyes closed in an attempt to keep the tears from flowing out. I'm sorry, Kate says. I shouldn't have abandoned you like this. Please forgive me. I was so focused on Diane that The rest of Kate's words get drowned out by the sound of a very loud horn. It seems that the arena event is about to start. I only noticed that Darren and Hadrick were also there. I only now notice that Darren and Hadrick were also there, standing behind Kate. They must have all met earlier and came looking for me together. I know, Kate says as she wipes her tears with her sleeve. Please, keep her safe, Kate tells me simply as she walks past me, heading towards her division's side of the arena. I will, I tell her. Kate, wait, Layla writes with her mouth open as if she'd forgotten that she can't talk. But Kate doesn't get to see the blue writing and she keeps walking away from us. Call after Kate. There's no time. The two of them can talk more after the arena. Goodberry will call after Kate. Hey, Kate! I shout loudly to make sure that she hears me. Kate stops in her tracks and she turns around confused. Seeing that Layla doesn't do anything, I give her a nudge with my elbow. She finally understands what I was doing, and she quickly makes a message out of blue text with very large letters so that Kate can see them from a distance. Kate, I'm sorry too, the text says. I'm sorry for having thought you would never want to see me again because I was Lasathi. Now that we're both sorry, let's win the arena and get out of here alive so that we can continue being sorry together. At first, Kate had a bit of shock when she saw the writing, but then she realized who it was coming from and she managed to smile. It's a promise, she shouts back to Layla, and then she turns around to hurry back towards her division. Good night, Nuts. Sweet dreams. Knock 'em dead, Barry, Hadrick says with his usual grin, as he also heads towards his own designated area. Or better yet, don't get killed, Darren tells me. We only need to survive the arena, not win it. I'll see you again later at the end of the event. Remember, no need to do anything crazy. Just stay alive. Got it? Got it, I say. Once Darren is also gone, Layla and I decide to head towards our division as well. So, I say as the two of us walk side by side, now are you glad you decided to follow me to meet my friends? She looks at me surprised for a few moments, until she realizes that it was in fact Kate that I wanted her to meet from the very beginning. Yes, she then writes, smiling. I'm glad. Thank you. We make our way to our division area where all of our other teammates are already gathered. We then take our places next to the iron gratings blocking our access to the fighting area in order to have a better view of what's happening in the arena. Apparently, there are still some people who are making their way towards their seats, but most of the spectators seem to have found their places and are now resting and are now restlessly waiting for the show to begin. I take a look to see if I can spot Flower, but the seats are too far away from me to be able to make out any details. The announcer is now verifying his magical voice magnifier in preparation for the event. He is situated on an elevated platform above the spectator seats. As we all wait for the events to begin, I suddenly hear a familiar beeping noise coming from my pocket. At the same time, a similar beeping noise comes from the direction of Layla as well. Finally! I've been waiting for this for a while. Alright, so save. Book 2, Chapter 4.6. Alright, so there's now 6 available. And I'll save this. So, for people who don't know, he has a stat device that occasionally gets points throughout the story, and he can invest them in certain things, which is why certain paths work and certain paths don't. Since we're doing smart and good, I have invested in hearing, observation, and ancient languages, as well as for like defense, battle, strength. Yeah. Right now it's just good and smart, so it doesn't really matter. I will wait to invest points for the arena event. Yeah, I'll just wait for now, and as we go through it, we can make more decisions. Unless you guys want to make a decision right now, I just feel like it would be better to wait. Because I normally save, so if there's a certain path or decision that someone wants to make and we need certain points, we can do that. Cool. Once I'm done with my stat device, I put it back in my pocket, and I see that Layla is just about done with hers as well. Knowing her, she must have placed all of her points in toughness. I would ask her directly, but I wouldn't want to give away to the others the fact that we are Lisathi. Found a way to send messages in private, have you? Bruce asks us after seeing we both have the same type of devices at the same time. Well, I hope you've said what you needed, because the show's almost about to start. Shortly after Bruce is done talking, we hear the sound of a second horn signaling the actual beginning of the event. The few spectators who came in late are now hurrying as fast as they can towards their seats, as the announcer is doing a few tests to make sure that his voice magnifier is working properly. Soon the constant murmur that could be heard throughout the arena slowly dies out as the announcer takes a deep breath, preparing to officially announce the beginning of the arena event. Welcome, the announcer says. Welcome to all. I don't think there's any reason for me to make a lengthy introduction this time around. You all know why you're here. You came here because you were promised the event of the century, and we plan to deliver on that promise. Now, if it's all right with everyone, I would like to begin by announcing the rules. The announcer waits for a few moments in order to make sure that there are no objections, and then he continues to read from his notepad. By the request of the arena owner himself, Mr. Vinard, the owner says, today's event will follow the traditional rules which had been used by his father before him and by the Lisathi of old, before the still winter. And As most of you may already know, this means that if a gladiator breaks one of the rules, they will not be disqualified from participating any further, but they will become an undesirable. By becoming an undesirable, a gladiator will be forced to participate in an additional round from the official events, where they will need to fight all of the other remaining gladiators at once, in one final battle. Any gladiator who manages to give the finishing blow to an undesirable will get rewarded either with his freedom or with a large sum of money, depending on their status in this arena. Other gladiators can, of course, refuse to participate in this final round, and undesirables can also choose to no longer participate in the regular rounds once they have been pegged as rule breakers. The announcer coughs loudly as he flips the page of his notepad. Of course, the announcer continues, this does not mean that the gladiators will now be exempt from the following general rules of the arena. If a gladiator is caught using magic, if they kill their teammates, or if they attack any of the spectators, they will be executed on the spot. The undesirable rule only applies for the rules of the actual event. Moving on, the traditional rules of the arena state that the arena events must be divided into exactly 3 rounds. The first round, as I'm sure you've already been told, will be fought against a variety of mythical creatures that have never been used before in this arena. We do have a surprise for the second round, however. For this special occasion, instead of our reigning champion, I think you will be happy to learn that the warrior who will be joining us is none other than the relentless mercenary, Velgos. There is a loud murmur in the crowd when they hear the name of Velgos. From what I can tell, they seem excited about the prospect of watching him fight. In the third round, the announcer says, the gladiators that survive the first 2 rounds will need to fight in a series of duels to decide who will be the victors of the event. Some of the duels will have to be fought to the death, while others will be fought until only one of the fighters surrenders. The exact duels will be decided after the end of round 2, when we will know exactly which of the fighters have survived. Now that we all got the introductions out of the way, I believe it is finally time to get this event started. Is everybody ready? The crowd bursts into loud cheers for a few seconds, and the announcer now raises his tone in order to drown out all of the loud noises. Then I will keep you waiting no longer, the announcer says. In the event of let the event of the century commence. One of the iron grates from the lower level of the amphitheater is now slowly getting raised, while the crowds keep cheering as loudly as they can. For the first round, the announcer says, divisions of fighters will be entering the arena one by one in the order of their division's numbers. Let's give a warm round of applause to this event's first division. Ooga booga. Oh my gosh, so scary. Oh no. Hartash, thank you for the hydrate. Did you really, Mr. Kennedy? There's a... I didn't think so. There's a mixed sound of applause and shouts coming from the spectator seats as the gladiators from the first division make their way out of the gates and towards the the center of the arena. I do not recognize any of the warriors in this division, but judging by the continued cheers of the crowd, I'd say that most of the spectators have seen them perform at least once before. Some of the gladiators seem a little bit too confident. Former victors, perhaps? Either way, they'd better get their act together, and quick. From what Bruce said on my first day here, the events until now could not even begin to compare with what's coming. A large iron grate on the opposite side of the arena makes a loud creaking noise as it opens. From beyond the gate, a lion with black wings, red eyes, two horns on its head, and a scorpion's tail is making its way into the fighting arena. The manticore wastes no time, and it soars directly into the sky. 2 more manticores follow its lead, and they all start circling the skies above the arena, watching their prey intently. Seeing the beasts leave the fighting arena with such ease, some of the spectators in the crowd are beginning to show signs of uneasiness. "Do not worry," the announcer says, trying to calm down the crowd. "These beasts have all been well trained. They would not dare to lay their claws on anyone other than the gladiators in the arena." Several giant scorpions are now also joining the arena, coming from beyond the same gate that the manticores entered from. They are slowly advancing towards the warriors in a straight line without any attempt to surround them. It's a good thing I heard the guards talking about the scorpions while I was in my cell. I've had all the time in the world to prepare against them, and I've also told everyone else all of the information they needed to know about them. At least, as far as giant scorpions are concerned, we shouldn't have any. Let me know when you're back. I'll wait. Alright. What was the last thing you heard before the ad started? Because I stopped. It's a good thing that I heard the guards talking about the scorpions while I was in my cell. I've had all the time in the world to prepare against them, and I've also told everyone else all the information they need to know about them. At least, as far as the giant scorpions are concerned, we shouldn't have any. Hey, wait a minute. Those aren't giant scorpions. Those aren't giant scorpions at all. They're desert marauders. Damn those idiot guards. Could they not tell the difference? Okay, calm down. Desert marauders are pretty much just giant scorpions with smaller heads. They should have more or less the same behaviors. But do they also have the same weaknesses? I think they do, but I'm not completely certain. If only I had my notebook with me now. Should I go and get it? If they're going by order of the division number, then there should still be plenty of time until it's our turn to enter the arena. But if I leave now, I'm going to miss the fights. If I'm going to fight against these creatures by observing them in action, If I'm going to fight against these creatures, observing them in action may be crucial to my survival. Hold on. I also have another choice. I could send Layla to go and read my notebook, and go read my notebook and rip the pages I need out of it so she can bring them back to me. But would she be able to find the pages? I did make a page index at the beginning, but people have trouble understanding my ugly handwriting in the past. I can't just tell her to bring me my notebook because she might not have time to return it to my backpack before our round begins. Either way, I don't have much time. I'm going to need to decide what I want to do. Alright, well, I feel like this is the smartest option. But if one of you can make an argument for why I should pick one of these two, now is your chance. You have to actually convince me why a smart and good berry would not pick this decision. For the sake of stream, what do you mean? Oh, if he sends Layla to go get the notebook pages, he gets to stay and watch the fights, and he's able to get the information on the Desert Marauders because she's going to bring him the pages. So he gets to do both things. Okay. Robbie, hello, welcome in. Don't know what that means, but how are you doing? Hey Layla, I say. Can I ask you a favor? Layla turns towards me with a curious look in her eyes, waiting to see what I have to say. There was some information written about desert marauders in my notebook, I say, but I don't remember some important details. Could you please go and get the notebook out of my backpack, rip the pages about the marauders out, and bring them to me? There's an index at the beginning of the notebook where you can find the numbers of the pages that you're looking for. I'd go myself, but I'm the one who's studied about mythical creatures the most, and I'm afraid that I'll miss something important if I don't watch the fights. Okay, I'll go, Layla writes. Give me the key. I take the key of my locker out of my pocket and I hand it to Layla. The number of the locker is written on the key, I say. You've seen what my notebook looks like, right? You'll need to have a clear image of it in your head if you want to retrieve it from my backpack. Yes, I've seen it, Layla writes. I'll be right back. She then leaves the area of our division and heads towards the locker room. While I'd been talking to Layla, the marauders had been getting closer to the gladiators. The manticores are still flying in circles, waiting for the best opportunity to strike. The warriors seem to be rather well organized, and they're not letting the monsters intimidate them. On their leader's signal, 3 of the men jump to attack the leftmost marauder, while the rest of the gladiators try to distract the others. One of the warriors remains behind, and he watches the manticores attentively. He must have been tasked to observe the battle so that he can warn his teammates if the situation changes. The scorpion-like creature The scorpion-like creatures are at least 5 times bigger than the gladiators, and they could probably crush any single one of them with their giant claws. The warriors seem to be experienced in battle, however, and they manage to remain unharmed by anticipating the marauders' movements, and by covering for each other in their time of need. The group from the left in particular seems to be doing surprisingly well. They've managed to weaken the creature with a few well-timed strikes, and they're already moving in for the kill. The most agile of the 3 jumps on the creature's back, and he stabs it fiercely in the back of its head. The marauder screams in pain, and it tries to attack the warrior with its tail, but the gladiator jumps off while the other two make a rush for it and stab the monster in both of its eyes with their swords at the same time. The crowd bursts into loud cheers and shouts as the scorpion-like creature falls to the ground. The 3 warriors raise their swords for a few seconds to signal their victory to the spectators, and then they head towards the other marauders in order to help their teammates. "Fall back!" we hear the desperate shout of the gladiator who was observing the battlefield. Yeah, I was hoping no one would pick up on that. The gladiators look up, but they have no time to react. It takes only a few seconds for the manticores that had been circling the skies all this time to dive down, to sink their claws into the warrior's chest, and then to soar back into the air, carrying their prey. The screams of the gladiators silence the crowd completely as the beasts fly higher and higher. 2 of the gladiators drop their swords from the pain immediately after being attacked, but one of them managed to keep a hold of his weapon, and he's now using it to stab his attacker in the underbelly. The manticore screams, and it drops the warrior, who falls to the ground and crushes his head against the hard soil. The other 2 gladiators are raised a bit higher by their attackers, but they also get dropped on the ground and they die on impact. The remaining warriors are finally starting to panic. Their leader was among the ones who died. Having lost the person who was giving them directions, the gladiators begin to break their formation, and the marauders take advantage of the situation by grabbing one of the warriors with their claws, while another marauder impales him with his tail. As if all of this wasn't enough, 2 of the manticores are just now entering the fighting arena from beyond the gate, and they're running fast towards the surviving gladiators. The observer gets killed first. He didn't seem very skilled in combat and got mauled in an instant. The other gladiators did not last much longer. The desert marauders and the manticores finally joined forces again, and they couldn't stand a chance. At the end of the fight, the arena falls completely silent except for the sounds of the manticores feasting greedily on the carcasses of their hard-earned prey. "By the gods," Bruce says as he watches the battle's aftermath in horror from beyond our iron grating. It appears that not even our reigning champions could defeat these fearsome beasts, the announcer says. "This does not look good for the following divisions. Is this event going to end in a bloodbath?" The iron grating of the 2nd Division is now getting raised. However, nobody seems to be coming out. After about 10 seconds of silence, we hear a scream coming from their direction. "I'm not going out there," a man screams at the top of his lungs. "If you want to kill me, then kill me now. You saw what happened to those gladiators. We don't stand a chance." "You're going to march in there and fight," another man's voice says, "or you'll be getting a death far worse than being eaten alive by a manticore." "No, please have mercy," the other man shouts. The discussion between what I presumed is a gladiator from the 2nd Division and a guard from the arena is getting a lot of reactions from the spectators. Some of them seem to be getting scared, and others are fidgeting around nervously in their seats. We seem to be experiencing some technical difficulties, the announcer says. There's no need to be alarmed. I'm sure that our guards will get the show up and running again in... The announcer stops mid-sentence as a single dwarf steps out of the 2nd Division's gate, carrying a bottle in his hand and walking at a relaxed pace towards the desert marauders. Both the crowd and the announcer fall completely silent as they watch Hadrick walk calmly and then stop in the middle of the arena in order to chug down the last contents of his bottle. Ah, Hadrick claims, there is nothing like a fine bottle of dwarven ale to raise your appetite before a battle. He then starts turning his head around as if he were looking for something. Say, you wouldn't happen to have something that I could throw this empty bottle away in, would you? He shouts towards the announcer as he shows him the empty bottle in his hand. The announcer watches him with a puzzled expression on his face without saying anything. You know, like a trash can or a paper bag or something so I don't make a mess, Hadrick says. The announcer and the crowd watch the dwarf silently, unable to decide whether he is being serious or not. While Hadrick was talking, one of the scorpion-like creatures who was slowly creeping up behind him and aiming to attack him with its claws. You know what? Never mind, Hadrick says. I'll just use this as an improvised weapon instead. He then immediately turns around and he clobbers the desert marauder in the head with his bottle, which breaks into shards of glass that stab the creature in its eyes. The monster starts screaming in pain, and as Hadrick makes a quick jump, landing with his fist on top of the marauder and smashing it against the ground, causing a loud shockwave while also forming a small crater below the creature due to the force of the impact. One of the manticores that was still up in the sky dives down to grab Hadrick with its claws, but the dwarf steps away at the exact moment when the monster reaches him, and he grabs it by the tail. He then spins it around for about 4 seconds, building momentum, and then he throws it at the wall far away from him with all of his might, causing the beast to smash right through it with a loud, booming noise. The crowd and the announcer are both speechless. They are looking at the dwarf with bemused expressions on their faces, not knowing how to react. Oh, you don't need to worry about that wall, Hadrick says, thinking that his reckless behavior is the reason for everyone's silence. I checked that area out before the battle, and there's nothing but an empty storage on that side, so there's no danger of anyone getting hurt. A loud roar of cheering noises drowns out the rest of Hadrick's words as the spectators finally regain their previous vigor and start shouting and clapping like never before. See, now that's more I like it, Hadrick shouts, with a wide grin as he sees the people cheering. This is what an arena is all about. You all better hang on to your seats because the fun is just starting. He then runs towards another marauder and he headbutts it so fiercely that it drops to the ground in an instant. Release the second wave, the announcer shouts as a few more desert marauders come out of the iron grates that had been opened previously. Making their way from behind the marauders, a new species of creatures is now entering the fighting arena. The creatures look like larger versions of porcupines, but from what I understand, they should not be related to them in any way besides their looks. Unlike regular porcupines, the quills on their backs are deadly weapons, and they are sharp and durable enough to give even steel a run for its money. The creatures have the ability to launch their quills as projectiles with a very high accuracy and speed. Due to their high regeneration rate, they also have the ability to regrow their quills almost instantly. This provides them with a near unlimited stock of ammunition to use against their foes. Their appearance and their behaviors have led people to call these creatures archer porcupines. A few of the porcupines that have positioned themselves several dozen feet behind Hadrick are now turning their backs towards him, getting ready to attack. Hadrick is still fighting the marauders, and he doesn't seem to have noticed the porcupines. Should I shout a warning to him? I wouldn't want to distract him in the middle of his battle, but if those porcupines manage to aim their shots right, he might be in trouble. I like Hadrick too. He's one of my favorites. He's supposed to have like a Scottish, Irish accent, but I can't do an accent, so just imagine him being like a badass Viking. Scotland forever. Like that. But better. So warn him or don't warn him. I feel like the good version would be to warn him. But, again, there is the argument of not distracting him. Okay, warn him. Hey, Hadrick, I shout, behind you! Hadrick looks back and he sees the porcupines getting ready to attack him. He waits for them to shoot, and he dodges at the last moment, causing the quills to hit a desert marauder instead. He then dashes towards his ranged attackers, not leaving them any time to ready up a second shot, and he pummels them repeatedly with his fists until they're either dead or unable to move. Nice one, Barry! Hadrick shouts. I owe you a beer! The marauder who got hit by the quills was the last one standing, and the damage it took was enough to send it falling down. The manticores have all abandoned their meals when Hadrick started his rampage, and they're now back to circling the skies, trying to find the right time to strike. One of the braver manticores adds, okay. Okay, cool. Welcome back. Yeah, it's just a good thing to do. The manticores have all but abandoned their meals when Hadrick started his rampage, and they're now back to circling the skies, trying to find the right time to strike. One of the braver manticores dives down quickly in an attempt to surprise the dwarf, but when it sees him react, the monster quickly soars back up into the sky and out of reach. Damn it, Hadrick says. Come back here, you coward. Come back here and fight. Hey, dwarf. I hear Araka's voice coming from the crowd. Why don't you try singing them a lullaby? Maybe they'll get sleepy and come back down. Ah ha 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 ha. One day I will look up a video on how to do fake laughter, I promise. Following the sound of Araka's voice, I managed to identify Flower in the crowd of spectators. The people around her have their heads turned towards her and are watching her curiously. They must think that the amulet around her neck is some new type of transceiver. Shut up, you blasted old hag! Hadrick shouts back at her. When I get out of here, I swear I'm going to double your spinning sessions. Hey, I've got a better idea, Eureka says. How about you stop wasting everyone's time? And get back to fighting! Do you have any idea how much this ticket cost? I can't fight them, you moron, Hadrick shouts, exasperated. I'm not allowed to use ranged weapons in the arena. Then throw some spears, Eureka shouts. Do I really need to tell you everything? You've got spears mounted on the walls. Use them. Now that Eureka mentions it, I see that there are indeed spears and various other weapons mounted on the walls of the arena. They must have placed them there to give people who didn't have any weapons when they got captured an equal chance in the fighting events. Hadrick mumbles something under his breath and he goes to get one of the spears. He then tosses it at one of the manticores and the spear lodges itself into its chest, causing blood to spray out while the creature falls towards the ground. Before the creature reaches the soil, the dwarf grabs 2 more spears and he throws them in quick succession towards 2 of the other manticores, killing them as well. Hearing check successful, level 3. The last remaining manticore decides that the skies are no longer safe, so it quickly dives down towards Hadrick to end the fight with one big final clash. Hadrick does not wait for the creature to reach him, and he makes a jump, grabbing it from the air and doing a spinning drop, crushing the beast's head into the ground. He did it. That crazy bastard did it. He took both waves of monsters down all by himself, and he barely even got scratched. The crowd is now cheering louder than ever before. Hadrick's teammates, who had been hiding the whole time, come rushing towards the dwarf, and they raise him in the air while chanting his name repeatedly. Hadrick, Hadrick, Hadrick. They keep saying while the crowds are all cheering. Don't think that you're getting off that easily, you cowardly dogs, Hadrick says with a grin, while his teammates are throwing him up and down. When we get out of here, you're going to buy me a year's worth of drinks. What is the meaning of this? I hear the ambassador of Allendor shout from above. Ambassador, says Bernard, the owner of the arena. I see that you've decided to join us after all. Would you like some wine? The 2 of them seem to be talking in a private room above the divisions The 2 of them seem to be talking from a private room above our division's area. It doesn't appear like any of my teammates are able to hear them. Why is the dwarf here? The ambassador says. He wasn't supposed to be here. He's going to ruin everything. Calm down, ambassador, Bernard says. The dwarf came with the letter of admission signed by the king himself. We couldn't just turn him down. Just because you couldn't turn him down, the ambassador says, it doesn't mean that you have to let him make a mockery of your entire arena. But he hasn't done that at all, ambassador, the owner says. Quite the contrary, in fact. He has provided us with a spectacle that this arena has not seen for ages, and the crowds love it. The show has only just started, and it's already exceeded all of my expectations. I don't care about your expectations, the ambassador shouts. I want him out. Do you understand? I do not want him to set foot in that arena ever again. Bernard says. Truth be told, I also think that allowing the dwarf to wreak havoc any longer than he already has would make the show too predictable and boring. Very well, Ambassador. I will speak with the staff in charge of arranging the fights to make some modifications to the schedule. You will not be seeing him again. After we've finished their discussion, the room above falls silent. Meanwhile, on the outside, the crowds have still not stopped cheering since the end of the previous fight. It takes about another minute for the cheering to finally die down, and for Hadrick and the others to step off the stage so that the next division can enter the fighting area. Shortly before the next division gets announced, Layla finally comes back from the locker room with a few pages of my notebook in her hand. "Sorry I'm late," Layla writes. "I got retained by a guard on the way to the lockers. He had to go and get me a pass from the owner before I could proceed." "No problem," I tell her. "Are those all the pages?" "This is all I could find," Layla writes. "Behaviors, weaknesses, and some diagrams." "Perfect," I tell her. "That's all we need." I take the notes from her hands and I study them closely. It doesn't take me long to realize that the desert marauders are indeed not much different from giant scorpions. Even their weaknesses are the same. I guess this whole trip I sent Layla on turned out to be nothing but a huge waste of time. The gate to the 3rd Division is now opening. The first one to come out of it is none other than Darren. His teammates also follow him after a short period of time, but they are looking a bit apprehensive. "For your information," the announcer says, "the man with the scar who just entered the arena is known as Darren, the Healer in Armor. He is a well-known hero from outside of Varathia who has traveled the world and has saved countless lives throughout the years. You may have heard of him from various newspapers in the past. Today, he will be participating in our arena event as our special guest. Let us have a warm round of applause for our hero, Darren." "Harish, thank you for the first-time chat. Welcome in." All of the spectators begin clapping as Darren and his teammates get closer to the center of the arena and ready their weapons. Harish, type Pokey Start. Oh, it says that. Never mind. "Okay, listen up," Bruce tells us as the gladiators are still waiting to begin their fight. "After watching the 2 fights from before, I think we need to change our battle strategy." How are you doing, Harish? Am I pronouncing your name right? Harish? I think we need to change our battle strategy." "Have you gone daft?" the disinherited noble thug says. "Why would we change our tactics a few minutes before the battle?" "Because the way we are now, we're going to lose," Bruce says. "We don't have any teamwork. We should try being more like those gladiators in the 1st Division. You saw how well they worked together." "The gladiators from the 1st Division are all dead," the mage says. "Damn it, you know what I mean," Bruce says. "I'm talking about assigning roles to everyone. You all saw how they operated. One guy was the leader, another was staying behind to warn them of danger. Some of them were decoys, and others were the main fighters. If we did that too, we'd be a lot more organized." I think that's a good idea. That sounds like a terrible idea. Either of these are good. Oh my gosh, you got a gifted thank you for lurking. Alright, I'm gonna give y'all a minute if you want to help decide. I'm gonna drink water in the meantime. Froglord, we're in the same time zone. Yeah. Yeah, you should go to sleep. Get some rest. I'm planning on ending soon anyways. I'm supposed to stop within 20 minutes. And I'm hoping to finish the chapter. But I remember that the arena chapters are all extremely long. Three hours, 2 REM cycles, perfect for a nap. Alright, good idea? I think that's a good idea, I say. If we each have a role, we know what we're doing, and there will be less of a chance to panic. Oh, snap. Froglord, get some sleep. Good luck. There'd be less of a chance to panic. Oh, yeah? The mage asks. That's probably what those guys from the first fight thought too. But when their leader died, all of their organization went down the drain. It's still better than fighting in complete chaos from the very beginning, Bruce says. And who exactly is going to be our leader? The disinherited noble thug asks Bruce. You? Don't make me laugh. I'd rather get eaten by a manticore than have to listen to any of your orders. I never said that I would be leader. We can vote who gets to be eater. Bruce says. We can vote on who gets to be leader. Forget it, the mage says. I don't care who the leader is. I'm not leaving my survival in the hands of a person that I barely even know. It's not going to happen. Harish, have you played Magium? Do you have it? While Bruce and the others were fighting, the 3rd Division's round was getting ready to start. Release the Tramplers, the announcer says. Oh, that's awesome. That's super cool to hear. Are you excited for the next chapter to be released? Because the author announced, I think yesterday or the day before, that he's finished the next chapter and it should be released within the next 2 weeks. Yeah. It's so good. It's a really good story. Yeah, Anon nailed it. Release the Tramplers, the announcer says. Several creatures that look like a crossbreed between a bull and a rhinoceros are now slowly entering the fighting area. Each trampler has 2 horns on its forehead, 1 horn on its snout, and a tail that looks like a spiked mace attached to the end. I've also read that their skin is so tough that they may as well be wearing full plate armor. As their name suggests, tramplers will usually engage in battle by rushing towards their opponents and attempting to trample them to their deaths. Sleep is for the mentally stable. Yes. Fully agree. Harish, did you follow me because of Magium? Or I don't actually know if you follow me or not. Did you find me because of Magium, or did you just happen to find me and you've also read Magium? Surely enough, the tramplers do not wait for long, and they start rushing towards the gladiators at full speed. If you want to live, stay behind me, Darren tells the other gladiators. Darren's teammates are looking terrified. It only takes them a few seconds of watching the beasts get closer and closer for them to completely forget Darren's warning and start running for their lives. Darren lets out a deep sigh, and he continues to stand his ground with his sword at the ready. As soon as one of the tramplers comes within reach of his blade, he steps to the side and he cuts off the beast's head in one single motion, causing the trampler's headless body to fall on the ground and to keep sliding forwards on its belly for a few more feet, until the momentum is finally gone. "Gods be damned," I hear Bruce shout from behind me. "Why won't you listen to me? We're not going to stand a chance in the arena if we don't get our act together." "You don't need to be so negative, Bruce," Wilhelm says with a calm voice. "I'm sure that we'll handle ourselves one way or another. The important thing is that we've had that discussion yesterday about the creature's weaknesses. As long as survival is the primary goal in all of our minds, we'll surely put that information to the best of uses." Oh, so was that today? Did you see my response today? Yeah, that's really cool. Well, welcome in. I'm glad that you've decided to find me. Yeah, exactly. I try and always get people to download it for themselves because it's a really good story, and I have so much respect for the author. Chief Queef 2023, welcome in. Thank you so much for the follow. How are you doing today? The Tramplers have finished their first tour of the arena, and they're now coming back towards Darren for a second round. Some of his teammates have managed to evade the stampede, but two of them were not so lucky, and they got trampled to death before they could get out of harm's way. Darren waits patiently until the last moment, yet again, and then he runs his blade through the side of the creature, slicing it in half. The crowds are now going wild once more. Seeing that the first wave of beasts is already being dealt with, the announcer signals the beginning of the second wave. The three giant cobras are now making their way towards Darren, while the Tramplers decide to try chasing some of the easier prey. The cobras are both taller and wider than Darren, but their size is not the only dangerous thing about them. By the looks of the black spots on their necks, I'm almost certain that these are, in fact, acid-spitting cobras and not regular ones. Acid that comes from cobras is not as strong as the acid from mage spells, but it's not something to be sneezed at. While it may not significantly damage weapons and armor that have been sufficiently enchanted, the acid from a cobra can still burn through most regular metals in a matter of minutes, and it can burn through human flesh in a matter of seconds. Samo, hello! Welcome in! It's good to see you. When you publish your book, you want me to read it? I'm down. Are you actually writing a book? That's cool. Okay, welcome back. Being now faced with ranged attackers, Darren decides that it is no longer safe to maintain his position, and he switches to the offensive. Advancing slowly with his shield in front, Darren gradually closes the gap between himself and the cobras until he gets near enough to be able to make a dashed attack. The cobras have been spitting at him all this time, but judging by the impact it's had on Darren's shield, it may well have been spraying water. Darren makes a dash towards one of the cobras, and he slices its head off in one spike. Before the other two get to attack him, he banishes one with his shield, while stabbing the other one through the mouth with his sword. He then makes sure that the third cobra is still dizzy, and he finishes it off as well, with one well-timed slash of his blade. While Darren is busy with the cobras, the other gladiators have somehow managed to bring down one of the Tramplers by themselves. Seeing that the other Tramplers are not planning to attack him anymore, Darren decides to go help the others kill off the remaining creatures. If none of you are going to listen to reason, then I'll fight on my own, Bruce shouts again, this time louder than before. I don't plan on getting killed to save your sorry behinds. I very much doubt that anyone was counting on your help to begin with, Wilhelm says. Now could you please keep quiet? Our battle will begin shortly, and I would like to concentrate. Great. Our fight didn't even start yet, and our team is already falling apart. I should have known from the beginning that these people couldn't be trusted. You've written over 18 words trying to reach 30 or 50k words. That's really cool. Congratulations, Sama. That's awesome. It would be cool if a streamer read my book. Also, that's a great goal and great job so far. You've also written a book? That's really cool. Oh, and I will open this as well. I'm sort of playing as I go. It's smart, good, berry, and then the defensive one is strength. But I've got 6 available points, and as we go through the battle, I'll add them based on what people want. I'm down to read someone's book. The only issue is I'm not legally allowed to read out loud books. I mean, if you're giving me permission, then it would be fine. I would need the author's permission because of copyright stuff. And I did get the author of this his permission beforehand. I think that since this is free, I legally could have done it, but I wanted his permission because I have got a lot of respect for him. And thank you. I'm glad that you think that I'm doing well. I'm going to save throughout the battle. I'm going to let you guys help. Yeah. Don't worry. They will be used. Mm-hmm. There is a very loud burst of cheering coming from the outside. It appears that Darren and the other surviving gladiators have finally defeated all of the creatures. The announcer is signaling for them to leave the fighting area so that the show can proceed. As Darren and the others are getting ready to leave, a man dressed in a dark blue robe with a hood on his head comes from behind me, and he joins my side by the iron grating. Who are you? I ask him, even though I can probably guess the answer. I am a last-minute addition to your division, the man says. I've been sent here to solve your troubles. The man is carrying 2 scythes in his hands that both have sapphires encrusted into their hilts. You were sent here by the Lasathi, I ask him in a low voice in order to make sure that none of the others hear me. What were you thinking? Don't tell me you plan to fight all of the monsters by yourself. I will uphold our end of the bargain, the Lasathi says. Make sure that you uphold yours when the time comes. Yes, I say. Yes, of course. The Lasathi suddenly turns his head towards me with an expression of shock and rage in his eyes. You are lying, he says. What? I ask him. No, I was telling the truth. You are a fool, the Lasathi shouts. Any person with passable skills in reading auras could tell that you are lying from the way your aura is trembling right now. Don't you have any idea what happens to people that lie to us? I should kill you right now for your insolence. Hey, what's going on here? Bruce asks after hearing the Lasathi's shouts. Who are you and what are you doing in our division? The Lasathi calms down and he puts his scythes away when he sees Bruce confront him. It seems that despite his earlier remark, He would much rather avoid conflict than draw too much attention to himself. The deal is off, the Lasathi says, as he heads out of our division's area. Enjoy your last fight. He then walks out the door without saying another word. Damn, who was that? Bruce says. What did he want? No idea, I say. Yeah, I just feel like may as well save points until I know that I need them so that I can invest them further in the story as well. Sweet dreams, Mr. Kennedy. Thank you for lurking as long as you have. Good night. Goddamn executive dysfunction keeping me from writing. Yeah, I have the same problem. I like writing, but I'm not good at keeping up with it. Oh, right, you said that. Well, stay awake then. Seems like you haven't saved Rose, alright. But you can have a good strength build. I'll be back in some minutes. Well, alright, see you later. I'm gonna be ending soon though. Layla looks at me suspiciously, but she says nothing. Meanwhile, the iron grating in front of us is finally being raised. We all make our way towards the center of the arena, like all of the divisions before us. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the 4th division, the announcer says. Can't fall asleep on the job. Yeah, not recommended. The crowd watches us in complete silence as we make our way past all of the animal carcasses in order to reach our destination. It's clear that they do not recognize anyone from our division. They are probably already thinking that we're going to get butchered like that 1st division from earlier. I hope we won't end up proving them right. Welcome back, Harish. We hear a lion's roar coming from beyond the gates, leading to the creature's den. 2 manticores walk out of the den, and they immediately soar. I'm gonna save here before I forget. We hear the lion's roar. 2 manticores walk out of the den, and they immediately soar to the sky, just like the ones that fought the 1st division. Coming from behind them, 3 desert marauders are now making their way to the fighting area as well. But those aren't the only beasts that are coming our way. 2 giant acid-spitting cobras are now also slithering their way out of the den. And if my ears are not failing me, I think I can also hear the sounds of a few tramplers getting ready to charge towards us. For this fight, we are going to try something a little different, the announcer says. The members of the 4th Division will have to fight not 2, not 3, but 4 different types of our strongest creatures, and they'll have to kill them all if they want to advance to the next round. This change in our schedule was a personal request from our esteemed arena owner, Mr. Vennard. That bastard, is this way of telling me that in order to make it out of here alive, I'll need to outperform both Hadrick and Darren? You have got to be kidding me. Just make sure that you all follow my orders. And everything will be all right, Bruce says. I knew it, the ex-noble thug says. I knew that you would start playing leader as soon as we get into the arena. I already told you, nobody is going to listen to you, so you can take your orders and shove them up your arse. Is this really the time and place to be having this argument? Actually, I think that Bruce would do just fine as leader. I completely agree. I should be the one to lead the team, not Bruce. I feel like good, smart Barry could do any of these, honestly. So, is this really the time and place? Alright, I'm going to give it a minute to let people weigh in. Fight amongst yourself. And I'm going to drink water as well. I have been recording Magium for almost 2 hours now. My throat is getting a little sore. I don't need to ask what was the... That's what she said for that one. Nice. Yeah, I do have the alerts turned off, but it still made the announcement. Or the sound. Alright, so is this really the time? Is this really the time and place to be having this argument? So what do you propose we do, smartass? The thug says. Bow down to the almighty and all-powerful Bruce and accept his every command? No, I say. I'm proposing that you all shut the hell up and pay more attention to the battlefield. The creatures are already moving to surround us. The Cobras are now trying to get on our right side, while the Marauders are coming from our left. The 3 Tramplers are now making their way to the fighting area, and they are pawing the ground with their hooves, getting ready to charge. The Manticores are still circling the skies, biding their time. I'll save here because it's closer. Okay, so charge at the creatures all by myself, charge at the creatures and ask Layla to join me, wait for the creatures to get further away from each other before attacking. Well, we could also do the choices and then figure out what we need and then invest once we know what stats are needed. That way we don't invest the wrong ones. Which path would you like to take? And if you guys would like to pick stats to invest, you may do that as well. Harish, let the people who haven't played it figure it out on their own. Further away from each other? Alright. I'm expecting us to make multiple decisions. Yeah. I will intentionally allow readers to walk into their deaths, as Marshmang knows. Marshmang still hasn't forgiven me or themselves. Okay. I'm not talking shit, I'm just saying, if anything, I'm talking shit about myself. Because I allow you to make mistakes. Even when I know exactly what's gonna happen. Everyone, hide behind the monster carcasses, Bruce says. That way, the Tramplers won't be able to charge at us. Well, what do you know, Wilhelm says. The brute can actually say some sensible things every once in a while. We all hide between the Marauder corpses, and we keep watching the battlefield to see what the creatures are doing. The tramplers are moving around, trying to find a way to charge towards us without any obstacles in their path. The cobras and the marauders have gotten much farther away from each other now, and they are likely trying to flank us. The manticores are still flying around, waiting for the best opportunity to strike. If we just stand here, we're going to get surrounded, the ex-noble thug's friend says. We need to go and attack one of the groups now while they're divided. That will only encourage the tramplers to charge at us, the mage says. We should stay here where we at least have some cover. There are enough monster carcasses between us and the marauders to be able to make it there safely, I say. We can make quick sprints and take cover behind each one of the corpses until we reach our targets. Then we'll just have to make sure that there's a marauder between us and the tramplers, and we'll be fine. Thank you so much for hanging out, Harish. It's awesome to have you here. Have a really good rest of your day. Good luck with chores. Fake Ted laugh. Are you talking shit on my ability to fake laugh? Because that's fair. Thank you, Hartash. That doesn't sound like a bad idea, actually, the mage says. Yes, Wilhelm says, and if we travel as a group, we'll increase our chances of survival. Then let's get going, Bruce says, and remember to keep a lookout for the manticores in the sky. There's no telling when they'll take a dive for us. We all start moving towards the desert marauders in short sprints, stopping behind monster carcasses every time in order to make sure that the tramplers don't begin charging towards us. While they are resting between sprints, I take the opportunity to give everyone a quick summary of the behaviors and weaknesses of desert marauders, so we can all be on the same page when we start fighting them. As soon as we reach our targets, we position ourselves in a way that blocks us from the tramplers' line of sight, and we begin our attack. Mr. Kennedy, Marshmang, you guys are so kind in your sarcasm. Thank you so much. Bruce is the first one to engage the marauders, shouting loudly and swinging his large two-handed sword towards them in an attempt to intimidate them. Layla makes a rush at the marauders that's close to Bruce, trying to get to its head, but the creature blocks her path with its claws and tries to attack her with its tail. She dashes out of the way and she tries to attack it again from the side. One of the marauders charges towards the ex-noble thug, and it tries to impale him with its tail. The thug screams in shock and he jumps back, but it doesn't look like he's going to get away in time. All of a sudden, Bruce jumps out of nowhere and he deflects the marauder's tail with his sword, making the creature back up a bit in order to measure up its new opponent carefully. The arena is no place for cowards, Bruce shouts at the thug. This is a place for real men. If you're planning to fight like a woman, then get out of my way. Bruce then quickly realizes the poor wording of his phrase, and then he turns to Layla, who is now frowning at him. Or you can also fight like a woman if you want, Bruce says. Just don't be a coward. You get what I mean. Bruce and Layla then resume their fight in it. Bruce and Layla then resume their fight with the other marauder while Wilhelm is providing support for them. "Hey you," I say, "ex-noble thug!" "What did you just call me?" the thug says with a menacing tone. "Never mind that," I tell him. "Can you and your thug friend stand over there and make some loud noises? I need someone to distract that marauder so I can get behind it. The creature seems to have already taken a liking to you, so you'd make the perfect distraction." "Screw you and your distractions," the thug says. "Do you take me for a fool?" "If it's just a distraction, then I can handle it," the mage says. "Where do you want me to stand?" "Over there would be perfect," I tell him, and I point him in the right direction. The two thugs don't seem to want to be any part of my plan, so they're moving away from us, joining the others. The mage gets into position and he starts throwing rocks at the marauder in order to make it come after him. As soon as he gets the desert marauder's attention, I quickly walk behind the creature. And I quickly climb on its back. Now let's see. If my notes are correct, then a giant scorpion-like creature should have a weak spot right around here. I stab the marauder between two of the scales on its back, and the creature starts to scream loudly, while rocking its body back and forth for a few seconds. As it drops to the ground, I seize the opportunity and I move towards its head, delivering the finishing blow with one quick strike of my knife. I then get down from the marauder's back and I get ready to join my teammates in dealing with the rest of the creatures. No. Wait, this isn't over yet. I look up and I see that one of the manticores is now diving straight at me. I knew it! The manticore was waiting for me to kill something before attacking me. They were doing the same thing with Hadrick's fight in the one before. I jump out of the manticore's way and then I slash at its wing with my knife in order to cut off the feathers that it needs to fly properly. The creature tries flying away, but it no longer manages to gain altitude, and it crashes to the ground. I give the beast no time to recover, and I jump at it with my dagger, slitting its throat in one move. Observation check successful level 1, reflexes check failed level 1. As I turn to see what the others are doing, I notice that Wilhelm is no longer fighting alongside Bruce and Layla. Actually, now that I come to think of it, I'm pretty sure that I saw Wilhelm coming over here back when I was fighting the Marauder. So then, why isn't he here now? I get a bad feeling about all of this, and I decide to turn around. The first thing I see is the blade of an orange-hilted dagger quickly making its way towards me. The dagger goes straight through my heart, and it kills me instantly. I never even got the chance to face my attacker before I died. Load game. Alright, so now we have the choice of trying to make the same path with the reflexes stat, or we can pick a different path. Would you guys like to do the same path with the reflexes stat, or pick a different path? Now is your chance. Well, we died, and then in order to survive this path, we need reflex level 1. Or we could pick a different path and see what happens. With this path, they all work together to kill things. This one, they would probably end up more spread out. Alright. Okay, I'm going in, I say. Layla, wanna come with me? What? Layla writes. No, wait, I think we should see what the creatures do first. Alright, I say. I'll go on ahead then. You can join me later if you change your mind. I then start running towards the group of creatures and don't look back. The beasts are already somewhat separated from each other, so I choose to start with the marauders, since they seem to be the least dangerous of the bunch. I charge at the scorpion-like creature that is a bit further away from the other two, and I attempt to stab it in the face. Speed check failed, level 3. Now, if my information is correct, then a giant scorpion-like creature gets attacked directly from the front. That when a giant scorpion-like creature gets attacked directly from the front, and it does not consider itself overwhelmed by a large number of attackers, its first reaction should be to attack me with its tail, instead of blocking me with its claws. That means that the way to its head will remain clear as long as I'm fast enough to avoid the tail. As I get within range of the tail's attack, I prepare to dash forward. I suddenly realize that I'm not going to make it. I jump back just in time, avoiding the creature's lethal blow by mere inches. Well, if my speed isn't good enough, then I'll just have to overpower it through brute strength. If I want to get closer to its head, I'm going to need to get rid of its claws first. I begin to attack them separately, making sure that I'm never in a position where the marauder could attack me easily with its tail. Strength check successful, level 3. I'm so glad that Darren enchanted this dagger before the arena. I wouldn't even have imagined myself cutting off a giant scorpion's claw in a single strike before I experienced the sharpness of this blade firsthand. Now that one of its claws is gone, the scorpion can no longer block me from approaching. I attack the marauder from the right side where its claw is missing, and I dash for its head. The scorpion tail is not made to defend from lateral attacks, so the creature does not manage to fend me off before I stab it in its right eye. As the scorpion-like creature retracts in pain, I take the opportunity to run my knife through the back of its head, finishing it off in one strike. I then take my knife out of the marauder's head, and I look towards the other two scorpion-like creatures, trying to decide which one I should attack next. No, wait, this isn't over yet. I look up and see one of the manticores is now diving straight at me. I knew it! The manticore was waiting for me to kill something before attacking me. They were doing the same thing in Hadric's fight, and the one before. I jump out of the manticore's way, and then I slash at its wing with my knife in order to cut off the feathers that it needs to fly properly. The creature tries flying away, but it no longer manages to gain altitude, and it crashes to the ground. I give the beast no time to recover, and I jump at it with my dagger, slitting its throat in one move. Alright, have a great rest of your day, Mr. Kennedy. Thank you for hanging out. Good luck with work. Perfect! 2 creatures are already down. Now let's see which monsters I should attack next. Before I get to decide, I hear the sound of something dropping to the ground from behind me, and I turn around to see what happened. From what I can gather, it would seem that Wilhelm is the one that's been knocked out, and Layla is the one who hit him. Wilhelm was right behind him, and he was holding an orange-hilted dagger before Layla took him out. I changed my mind, Layla writes. I'm here to help. Wait, what happened to Wilhelm? I ask her. I thought it would be self-explanatory, Layla writes. He was trying to kill you. I knocked him out. Damn, I say. I didn't even know the guy. Bruce did tell me he was an assassin, but I didn't think he'd have any reason to want to kill me specifically. So what's the plan? Layla writes. Which of the creatures do we attack first? Let's start with that marauder over there, I say, as I point towards the marauder that's nearest to us. As we finish talking, we notice Bruce running towards us and then stopping for a few seconds to catch his breath when he gets close enough. You are both out of your minds, Bruce says. Well, you followed us here, so I guess that makes 3 of us, I tell him. So what are you two planning to do? Bruce asks me. We were just about to kill the... I stopped talking because I suddenly noticed that the cobras are getting closer to us and that 2 tramplers are moving around trying to find the best spot from where they can charge at us without having to worry about any obstacles in their way. Actually, never mind, I say. Hold on, let me think about this for a bit. Try to bait the cobras into spitting acid on the marauders. Ask Layla if she can deal with the tramplers while we deal with the cobras. Focus on killing the manticore first. If anyone wants to help make a decision, now is your chance. Actually, I might end here. 6-hour and 22-minute stream. 2 hours and 17 minutes of reading Magium. I might wait to make this decision for later. I really wanted to finish chapter 4, but it's too long. Bait tomorrow? Alright. Yeah, next time. I mean, I might read tomorrow. Back to chapter 4. Cool. Transfer achievements to cloud. Transfer. Checkpoint. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Back to cloud menu. Back. Load. Cool. Well, tomorrow is Friday, so I am planning on streaming. Alright, quick game. Okay. Alright, so thank you everyone for hanging out and listening to that. Again, Magium is free on both. It is a text-based choose your own adventure app that is free on both Android and iOS. And there's a lot of different paths that you could take, so I highly recommend it. If you don't want to play it for yourself, all of my previous read-throughs are on a Magium playlist on my YouTube. And so, yeah, thank you everyone for listening. I'm going to end the recording now, but I'm still going to talk for a little bit longer during the stream.